The difference between Rigvedic and later Vedic society is not just a change in time, it is a change in the very logic of society. The Rigvedic world was simpler, more mobile, and relatively egalitarian in its early phase. The later Vedic world was more settled, more hierarchical, and far more ritualized. In a sense, India moved from a society of horses and cattle to a society of land, lineage, and sacrifice. In the Rigvedic period, society was largely pastoral. Cattle were the chief measure of wealth, and conflicts often centered on possessions of cows and grazing land. People lived a semi nomadic life, moving with their herds. In contrast, the later Vedic society became agricultural and sedentary. The spread into the Ganga Yamuna Doab made agriculture central and land replaced cattle as the primary source of wealth. That is a huge civilizational shift. When wealth becomes tied to land, power becomes more permanent too. Politically, the Rigvedic society was relatively tribal. The Jana, Vish, and Grama were important units, and the Rajan was closer to a tribal chief than an absolute king. His authority was limited by assemblies such as the Sabha and Samiti. But in the later Vedic phase, kingship became stronger, more hereditary, and more territorial. The importance of large kingdoms like Kuru and Panchala shows the rise of state formation. The king now claimed greater authority through rituals like the Rajasuya and Ashwamedha. Power was no longer only personal, it was becoming institutional. Socially, the Rigvedic period was marked by comparatively greater fluidity. The Varna system existed, but it was not yet rigid. Occupations were not fully hereditary, and women enjoyed a better status than in later times. Women such as Lopamudra and Gosha are remembered in the Rigvedic corpus, and they had greater freedom in education and participation in rituals. By the later Vedic age, however, society became more hierarchical and patriarchal. The 4-4 Varna order hardened. Brahmanas and Kshatriyas gained prominence while Vaishyas and Sudras were pushed lower in status. Women's position declined and child marriage, rituals of purity, and restrictions increased. Religiously, the Rigvedic religion was simpler and more naturalistic. The people worshipped forces of nature like Indra, Agni, Varuna, and Surya through hymns and simple sacrifices. There was little temple worship or elaborate priestly dominance. The later Vedic period, however, witnessed the rise of complex rituals, sacrifices, and priestly power. Yagnas became more elaborate and expensive, and the Brahmanas acquired enormous authority because only they could perform the rites correctly. Religion became increasingly formal, ceremonial, and exclusionary. Economically, the Rigvedic society was based mainly on cattle wealth, barter, and limited craft activity. The later Vedic economy expanded with agriculture, surplus production, iron tools, and specialization of occupations. This created the basis for greater social stratification. So, if the Rigvedic society was the age of movement, cattle, and relative openness, the later Vedic society was the age of settlement, land hierarchy, and ritual control. One could say the first was a society still becoming, while the second was a society already building its structures of power. And that is the real historical insight. As economy changed, society changed with it. And once land became wealth, inequality became history's new grammar.